Hi, I'm Ed Paulson. Thanks for stopping by. This video is a little bit more about me to supplement the information that's in the About Ed page of my website, edpaulson.com. What I'm going to do is divide this talk into a couple of different areas. Me personally, a little bit about my background, then my professional background, my educational background, and also me as an author. So these things will all be interlaced in this brief overview. Real simply, born and raised in the Chicagoland area. After graduating from high school and a 2-year stint in the Army during the Vietnam era, I got out of the Army, bounced around a little bit, trying to figure out what it was like to be a civilian again. And as part of that, ended up back in school and attended the University of Illinois at Chicago, UIC as it's called, and received an undergraduate degree in electronic engineering. To make that work, though, I had to support myself. And back in those days, we just called it making a living. But nowadays, we call that I was being entrepreneurial. And to do that, I formed a partnership with a friend. And we used to renovate brownstones on the north side of Chicago. And it was really very good for me because it gave me some flexibility on my schedule, which allowed me to go to school, but also gave me the opportunity from an engineering standpoint to take some things that I was learning in school and apply them practically on a day-to-day basis. And construction's still one of my loves. I've renovated I don't know how many houses at this point. So I'm looking for another one. After graduating from my undergraduate degree, I went on and got a master's degree in structural engineering from University of Illinois at Chicago, and was lucky enough to work with a group of people who were doing biomechanics research into the spinal column of the human spinal column. And my job was to develop a mathematical or computer model of the intervertebral disc, which is the disc that sits between the vertebrae of our spinal column, to determine why they rupture. And it was fascinating work. Ended up doing my master's degree, and that, and still to this day, my interest. I have a strong avocational interest in biomechanics. And by the way, for the entrepreneurs out there, I think biomechanics and bioengineering is a wonderful field for future growth. So FYI on that. Silicon Valley called my name after graduation. Moved out to California and spent really about 10 years working with different companies throughout Silicon Valley, including companies like Seagate Technology, a company called David Systems, which was the first company to ever put high-speed integrated data voice over twisted pair wire. It was an integrated data voice PBX product. I was lucky to work with some amazing people when I was at David Systems, and learned a lot. And then from there went on to a company called Telenova, which was worked in conjunction with Wang Laboratories, which in its day, Wang Laboratories was a huge computer equipment manufacturer. And I was lucky enough to work with Dr. Wang a number of times on small projects, and in addition, just work with the Wang organization. And we were an OEM, original equipment manufacturer, who provided our products to Wang, who then took under the Wang label and resold the products. Our job was to help integrate a digital PBX system in with the VS computer, which was the Wang system, so that the two could share data for applications. It was fascinating and cutting edge at the time. It was great. Late 80s, I realized that I needed to round out my business background, so I went back to the University of Texas at Austin and moved to Austin to get my MBA from that program, and stayed in Austin from 1990 to 1996, where I started and grew and sold my own software training company. It was a software training company, but also became what was called the Microsoft Authorized Technical Education Center, or an ATEC. So we used to do more sophisticated enterprise-wide software training, including programming and some other things, including just the basic Word, Excel, PowerPoint packages, as well as doing management consulting. So it was a management consulting and software training company that grew. It was called Technology and Communications. At the end, initially, it was called Applied Concepts. In '96, when I sold that, transitioned for a while back to Chicago, and in '98 really was back in Chicago full time, and picked up my writing and also started work in my consulting business, still going, which is still active today. And in addition to that, also started working with DePaul University as a professor. And I really like the teaching part. And so went back and got my PhD in technology management from Indiana State University, with my specialization being digital communication. So if you think about me educationally, you'll see I have the engineering background, the business background, and then the blending of the management and technology with my technology management PhD. But in addition to that, you'll also see that I have a strong practical base, because I've worked in any number of stages of organizations, from research engineering to production engineering to market management, sales management, national account management, and general management as well. As an author, when I moved back to Chicago, my authorship started to take center stage. And the book that I am best probably known for is this one here. It's called The Complete Idiot's Guide to Starting Your Own Business. This book initially came out in 1995 as its first edition. This book is now out in its sixth edition. Represents over 200,000 copies sold, with readers sending me stories from all around the world about how successful they've been applying the concepts and principles in this book to their own entrepreneurial activities. It's been really gratifying. And in addition, as part of my David Systems days, I worked with a number of people who were with a company that was acquired by Cisco Systems. And they were kind enough to spend some time talking to me about how Cisco managed its acquisition practices in the 90s. During which period of time they acquired over 70 companies and grew revenues at double digits and net income at double digits, which, if you're familiar with merger and acquisitions, quite often when companies buy other companies, value gets lost as opposed to value getting enhanced. Cisco figured out a model for doing that, and this book is nothing but a big case study on how Cisco did that. Two books that I'm very proud of. So now what I'm doing is I'm teaching for DePaul University. I teach entrepreneurship, business management, finance, and organizational communication courses for DePaul. In addition to that, I also have my consulting company, and I'm writing. The final book that I'm working on right now is a book related to a communication method that I've developed based on some concepts I was exposed to in MBA school back in the late 80s that I've incorporated into my own practice and worked with. And my clients and my students said, well, Ed, you're a writer. Why don't you write a book on this? So I did. And that book will be coming out later this year. So lots going on. I appreciate your stopping by. I very much want to see people who are entrepreneurial in nature succeed. I love technology. It always fascinates me that this stuff works. And I just love to see people see their business and technological aspirations become reality. I hope I get a chance to work with you in some of this, and I look forward to future conversations with you. Take care. Bye.